He buried his wife 2 years ago. So why was she sitting in a hospital, calling him a stranger? Stay with me because what he discovered will change everything. Rain pounded against the hospital windows, lightning flashing across the city like an angry warning. Ethan's polished shoes slipped slightly on the wet pavement as he rushed through the revolving doors, his umbrella snapping inside out. Something in him urged speed, a sudden pull he couldn't explain, a gnawing tension he couldn't ignore. As he ducked into the lobby, the fluorescent lights flickered, and there she was, a woman, frail, sitting alone in a corner, her hair falling loosely over her shoulders. Ethan froze mid-step, a shockwave running through his chest. He could not breathe. The face staring back at him, pale and weak, was Lily's, his late wife. Every contour, every curve, every sparkle in her hazel eyes matched the woman he had lost 2 years ago. "No, it can't be," he whispered, barely audible. His hand tightened around the umbrella, knuckles white. The woman stirred slightly, coughing, her eyes blinking in confusion. "Do I know you?" she murmured, her voice weak, trembling. Ethan swallowed hard, words failing him. I don't think so. You look very familiar." Her gaze lingered on him, searching, hesitant. "Familiar?" she asked again. He nodded, stepping closer, feeling a mix of disbelief and hope claw at him. "Yes. Like someone I loved. A long time ago." The woman's lips quivered, and she gave a faint, tired smile. I'm sorry. I don't understand." Ethan's chest tightened. He wanted to tell her everything, to reach across the space between them and hold her, but fear rooted him in place. Could this really be Lily? Could life truly play such a cruel, or miraculous, trick? Over the next few days, Ethan could not stop thinking about her. He returned to the hospital under the guise of charity, bringing flowers, blankets, and tea, sitting quietly near her while she rested. He observed her movements, the subtle gestures, how she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, the faint curve of her smile, the tilt of her head. Everything screamed familiarity, but still, she did not know him. One evening, as the rain fell gently outside the hospital, Ethan leaned close, lowering his voice. "I know this is strange, but do you feel like you've met me somewhere before?" The woman shook her head, coughing weakly. I don't remember anything," she said. Her voice broke, and Ethan felt a stab of heartbreak. She couldn't remember him. She couldn't remember Lily. "Then I'll remind you," he whispered, more to himself than to her. "I'll stay. I'll remind you who you are." Later that night, Ethan sat in his apartment, staring at the city skyline, thinking, planning, obsessing. He could not leave it to chance. He began to dig. Hospital records, old files, interviews with nurses, minor clues he had almost overlooked. Everything was inconsistent. Her name, her past, her records, they didn't add up. He returned the next day, more determined than ever. "I need to know," he told himself. "I need to be certain." He watched her sleep in the chair by the window. Her chest rose and fell gently. Her face, though pale, still carried the shape of the woman he loved. Tears threatened, but he swallowed them down. Not yet, he reminded himself. Not until he knew. "You're going to be okay," he whispered softly, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. "I won't let anything happen to you." Days turned into a week. And with every visit, he felt his hope and desperation escalate. He spoke to hospital staff casually, pretending to inquire for charity purposes, but every question, every record search, only revealed fragments, puzzles, half-truths. He became obsessed, yet cautious, afraid of scaring her or exposing too much. One afternoon, as he sat beside her, watching her sip tea, he noticed a small gold ring on her finger. He froze. The delicate band, engraved with initials, was unmistakable, Lily's initials. His heart pounded violently. Could it be possible? Could life really be playing this intricate, twisted game, Ethan? She whispered suddenly, catching him staring. I'm sorry," he stammered. I wasn't. I just. He couldn't complete the sentence. How could he explain what he felt? You're familiar, she said softly, eyes searching his. But I don't remember. Ethan's throat tightened. He wanted to scream, to cry, to shake her gently until memories returned. Instead, he whispered, I'll stay. I won't leave. I promise. That night, he returned home, pacing. Every memory of Lily surged in his mind, her laugh, the way she looked at him when he first proposed, the warmth of her hand in his. His determination hardened. He would find out the truth, no matter what it took. The next day, Ethan asked the hospital administrator to grant him access to older records. Subtle, polite, careful questions. Small files that could hide the truth. Every answer, every paper, every signature was scrutinized. Finally, a detail caught his eye, a discrepancy in the funeral records, a small note that had been overlooked. His heart skipped, someone had been buried as Lily, but the details didn't match. Another name, another person entirely. Could it be? His mind spun. The realization, if true, would be overwhelming. The woman stirred, coughing, and Ethan moved closer, taking her hand gently. I need to know your story, he said softly. I think you're the person I've been searching for. She blinked up at him, confused and fragile. Searching. For me? Yes, he whispered. I think you're someone very important. Someone I lost. And now I've found. Her eyes searched his, trying to grasp the words, trying to remember something she could not. The tension in the room was suffocating, a mixture of hope, fear, and anticipation. Ethan's pulse hammered in his ears. The truth, he knew, was just beyond reach. If you're enjoying this story, make sure to hit like, leave a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe for the next part. You won't want to miss what happens next. Ethan stayed with her, hand in hand, watching, waiting, praying. Every small sign, every flicker of recognition, every sigh, every weak smile, was a spark of hope. And as the rain fell outside the window, he made a silent vow, whatever it took, he would uncover the truth. He would bring Lily back to him, even if she did not remember him yet. The first week had passed, tension mounting. Then came the moment that would change everything. A nurse, hesitant and nervous, approached Ethan. There's something you need to see, she whispered. It's about the funeral records. Ethan's stomach twisted. Could it really be? Could the impossible be true? He followed her to a small office. And she handed him a file. His eyes widened. Dates, signatures, and a small, nearly illegible note confirmed it. The woman in front of him was not only alive, but she was his Lily. The person buried was someone else entirely, a tragic mistake that had gone unnoticed. Ethan felt his knees weaken. His mind raced. Could it be real? Could fate truly have given him back the one thing he had lost, in a way more cruel and miraculous than he could imagine? He rushed back to her room, his heart hammering in his chest. It's you, he whispered, almost unable to speak. You're alive. Lily. It's really you. She looked at him, confused, frightened. I don't remember. He took her hand, squeezing it tightly. I know. But I'll remind you. Every day. I won't leave you. I promise. Her eyes welled with tears, a weak smile breaking through. And in that instant, hope surged, fragile but undeniable. Ethan stayed by her side for hours, unwilling to leave. The hospital room felt impossibly small, yet for him, it was the only place that mattered. He watched her breathing, the faint rise and fall of her chest, and the delicate tremor of her fingers. Each tiny movement brought a surge of longing he hadn't felt in 2 years. I'm sorry, she whispered suddenly, breaking the silence. I feel like I should know you, but I can't. I can't remember. Ethan squeezed her hand, swallowing back a wave of emotion that threatened to spill over. It's all right. You don't have to remember yet. I'll help you. I'll stay, and together, we'll find your memory. Her lips trembled. Why? Why are you being so kind to me? Because I know you, he said softly, leaning closer. I know you better than anyone, even if you don't remember. And I won't leave you. She looked at him with fragile, unsure eyes, but for a moment, a spark flickered, something unexplainable, a faint recognition buried deep in the corners of her mind. Days passed, and Ethan visited her every afternoon. He brought meals she could tolerate, read aloud to her when her voice was too weak, and gently prompted her with stories of a past life she couldn't remember. Each conversation was painstaking, careful, and yet every word, every gesture, felt like a thread weaving them closer together. You always used to like strawberries, he said one afternoon, placing a small bowl on the bedside table. Even in winter. You'd eat them with cream, and you'd insist it was the best thing in the world. She frowned, hesitant. I don't remember. But it sounds nice, she murmured. Ethan smiled, fighting the lump in his throat. It's more than nice. It's you. You loved the small joys. That's part of who you are. Every evening, he would leave reluctantly, lingering at the door for one last look, his mind spinning with questions. How could fate be so cruel to lose her? How could it be so merciful to give her back? He felt like a man walking a thin line between joy and despair, unsure which would claim him first. One afternoon, a nurse approached him quietly as he sat beside her, reading a book aloud. Mr. Ethan. We've found something in her old files, she said, lowering her voice. You should see this. Ethan's pulse quickened. He followed her to a small, dimly lit office, glancing at the documents in her hands. Pages filled with dates, medical histories, and a small note he almost missed. His eyes widened as he read, the funeral records, the note about a clerical error, the confirmation that the woman in the burial was not Lily. He barely breathed, his hands trembling. Could it be real? Could this fragile, sick woman before him be the wife he had mourned for so long? Returning to her room, he knelt beside her chair. I need to tell you something, he said softly, taking her hand again. Her eyes met his, filled with fear and confusion. What? What is it? She asked, voice shaking. You're Lily, he said carefully, as if saying it too loudly might shatter the fragile reality. The person they buried. It wasn't you. You're alive. I've found you. Her eyes widened in shock, a tremor of fear crossing her face. I don't understand. I don't remember anything. I know, he said gently, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. You're sick. That's why. But I'll help you. I'll remind you. Every day, I'll remind you who you are. I promise. You're not alone anymore. Tears filled her eyes, and she gripped his hand weakly. I don't know if I can. If I can remember. You will, he whispered. Step by step. I'll be here. Always. The following days were a delicate balance of care and patience. Ethan stayed close, ensuring she ate, slept, and rested properly. He repeated small reminders, shared memories, familiar scents, familiar stories, anything that could awaken her buried recollections. Slowly, tiny sparks of recognition began to emerge, fleeting and fragile, but enough to give him hope. One evening, as lightning flashed outside the window and the rain lashed against the glass, she suddenly paused mid-sentence. Her eyes locked on him, wide and unblinking. Do you know the song we used to sing? She whispered. Ethan's heart leapt. Yes, he said softly, leaning closer. I remember. You loved it. She hesitated, then hummed a few notes. They were tentative, shaky, but unmistakable. Ethan's eyes filled with tears. "That's it," he whispered. "You remember a little. That's all that matters. Step by step, we'll get there." Her lips quivered as she looked at him. "It feels familiar," she murmured. "It's your memory, slowly returning," he said. "And I'll help it come back. I promise." Tension escalated when a doctor informed Ethan that her illness might have permanent effects on her memory. The room filled with heavy silence. Ethan gripped her hand tightly. "No," he said firmly. "I won't accept that. I'll make sure you remember me. I'll make sure you remember Lily." The nurse glanced at him nervously, clearly worried about his intensity. Ethan didn't care. The possibility of losing her again, of never truly reclaiming her, was unbearable. He spent hours researching treatments, therapies, anything that might stimulate her memory. Every day was a battle of patience, hope, and determination. As her body slowly regained strength, the emotional tension between them deepened. Small gestures, his hand brushing hers, the way he helped her sit, the way they laughed softly at small jokes, built intimacy. Yet every time she faltered, forgetting a story or a memory, Ethan felt the knife of fear twist in his chest. One night, she spoke softly, almost to herself. "I feel like I've known you forever. But I can't remember why." Ethan's heart ached. "That's because your mind is protecting you," he said gently. "But I'll stay here. I'll remind you. Every day. And one day, you'll remember everything. I promise." He leaned back slightly, taking a deep breath. The storm outside mirrored the storm inside him, the mix of fear, hope, and longing. He knew the hardest part was yet to come, the moment when the truth would fully emerge, when she would either remember him completely or remain a stranger. Despite the uncanny familiarity, Ethan stayed vigilant. Every reaction, every flicker of recognition, was noted and encouraged. He recounted stories from their past, even small mundane ones, the way Lily liked her tea, how she laughed at his terrible jokes, how she always placed her hand gently on his shoulder when worried. Each story elicited a reaction, sometimes a smile, sometimes a puzzled frown, but always a tiny spark that he clung to. Then one afternoon, a breakthrough. She paused, mid-conversation, and her eyes widened. "Wait. I think I remember. The garden. The roses." Ethan's eyes shone with hope. "Yes, our garden. You loved the roses. You planted them every spring." Her lips trembled as fragments of memory surfaced. Yes. I remember. A little." Ethan's chest tightened. This was it, the first step toward reclaiming everything he had lost. He smiled through his tears, holding her hand firmly. "That's all I need for now. Step by step, you'll remember everything. And I'll be here for every single step." And with that, hope surged like a wildfire. For the first time since he saw her sitting alone in the hospital lobby, Ethan felt a sense of certainty, fragile, yes, but real. Lily was alive. And he would do whatever it took to bring her fully back to him. Days turned into weeks, and each visit brought new flickers of memory. Ethan began noticing subtle reactions, a smile at a familiar phrase, a tremor of recognition at a shared joke, a pause when he mentioned a location she should remember. It was painstaking, frustrating, and exhilarating all at once. Every small breakthrough felt monumental, and every setback crushed him anew. One afternoon, as sunlight poured through the hospital window, Ethan brought a small music box. "Do you remember this?" he asked, carefully winding it. A delicate, familiar melody filled the air, her eyes widened, and her hand trembled as she reached toward it. I think so. It's familiar," she whispered. Her voice was weak but steady, laced with emotion he hadn't heard in years. "Play it again," he urged softly. "Tell me if it feels like home." She listened, closing her eyes, her lips moving as if tasting words she could not speak. Home. Yes. Maybe home, she murmured. Ethan's chest tightened. That was the spark he needed, a tiny bridge to everything lost. Ethan continued bringing small items from their past, photographs, letters, the faint scent of her favorite perfume. Each object elicited small reactions, sometimes confusion, sometimes fleeting joy. But every day, he grew more certain, she was Lily. Then came the most terrifying moment. One nurse, unaware of his growing knowledge, mentioned a possible memory gap caused by a head injury she had sustained during her illness. It might be permanent, the nurse said casually. Ethan's heart froze. Permanent? Could he lose her again, even before she remembered him? No, he whispered fiercely. I won't let that happen. He spent that evening recounting their entire life together, every laugh, every whispered promise, every moment they had shared. Her eyes shimmered, lips trembling. I feel like I, maybe remember. Little things, she said, voice barely audible. Yes, he said, tears threatening to fall. That's it. You're remembering. Step by step, it will all come back. As her health slowly improved, her mind began to piece together fragments. A word, a gesture, a look would trigger a memory, the way he held her hand, the way she decorated their home, the songs she loved. Ethan stayed patient, careful never to overwhelm her. Each spark of recognition was celebrated, each slip into confusion met with gentle reassurance. One evening, a breakthrough came. She paused mid-sentence, staring at him with sudden clarity. Ethan. The night we laughed in the rain. I think I remember. His heart leapt. Yes, yes. That's it. You remember us. He held her hand tightly, overwhelmed with relief. That's the Lily I know. That's the woman I love. Her lips quivered, tears spilling down her cheeks. I don't understand. How could I be here? I thought I was gone. That night. I died. Ethan's own tears fell freely. You weren't gone. Not really. They buried the wrong person. But I found you. You're alive. I promise, you're here. With me. She shook her head, trying to grasp the impossible truth. It doesn't make sense. How did you find me? I never stopped looking, he said, voice breaking. I followed every lead, every clue, every fragment. And here you are. Alive. Safe. And I won't let you go again. The room fell into silence for a moment, filled only with the soft sound of her breathing and the faint tick of a clock. Then she spoke, voice trembling but stronger than before. I remember pieces. But not everything. That's okay, Ethan said gently. Step by step, you'll remember it all. And I'll be here for every step, every memory, every moment. The nurse glanced in, eyes wide. Mr. Ethan. I think she's responding better than expected, she whispered. Yes, Ethan said softly, holding Lily's hand to his chest. Yes, she is. If this story is keeping you on the edge of your seat, don't forget to like, comment your thoughts below, and subscribe for the final, shocking part. You won't believe what happens next. Ethan continued his gentle work every day. He introduced small challenges, asking her to describe a memory in detail, telling her stories and seeing if she could fill in missing pieces, showing her photographs and watching for recognition. Each day was a delicate balance of patience, hope, and subtle encouragement. One afternoon, she paused suddenly while looking at a photograph of their old home. The porch. The roses. I planted them myself. Didn't I? Yes, Ethan said, his voice breaking. You did. Every spring, every flower. That was you, Lily. Her eyes filled with tears, and she looked at him with something that bordered on fear and recognition. Ethan. I remember. Bits and pieces. But. It's confusing. I know, he whispered. And that's okay. You'll remember everything in time. I'll help you. We'll face it together. Then came the day when she recalled the most intimate detail, the night they had celebrated their anniversary on the rooftop, dancing in the rain. She described it in shaky words, every phrase matching perfectly to the memories Ethan had treasured for years. His heart pounded with emotion, and he held her tightly. Tears streaming down his face, "You're Lily," he whispered. "You really are. Alive. Here. With me." And in that moment, he realized the magnitude of what had happened. Fate had given him a second chance, a miracle disguised as tragedy, a woman lost and returned. But the journey wasn't over, she still couldn't remember everything, and every day would be a careful path back to the life they had once shared. Weeks passed, and Lily's memory returned in fragments, growing stronger each day. Small details, gestures, and phrases led to the realization of the impossible. She was alive. She was Lily. And Ethan had not imagined a single moment. One morning, she awoke with a start. The night of the accident. I remember something. Her voice was shaky, eyes wide. Ethan leaned forward, holding her hands tightly. Tell me. Whatever it is, tell me. I was in the car. It was raining. And I thought I died, she said, voice trembling. But I remember someone else. In my place. Someone who wasn't me. Yes, Ethan said softly, tears in his eyes. That's true. It was a mistake. They buried the wrong person. But you're here. Alive. And I've found you. Her lips quivered as understanding dawned. Ethan. It was you. All along. Yes, he whispered. I never stopped looking. I never gave up. And now. We have each other again. The room filled with quiet sobs, laughter, and disbelief as reality settled in. Every memory returned in pieces, each revelation more shocking than the last. The woman who had been lost to him for 2 years was standing, or rather, sitting, with him, alive and breathing, a living miracle. I can't believe it, she whispered. I thought I was gone. That I had died. No, he said, his hands trembling as he brushed her hair back. You're here. You're mine. And I'll never let this happen again. They sat together in silence, the storm outside replaced by gentle sunlight streaming through the window. In that quiet, miraculous moment, they simply held each other, letting the world and all its confusion fade away. Ethan knew the journey ahead would be challenging. Memories would return slowly, health would continue to be fragile, and each day would require patience, understanding, and love. But one thing was certain, they were together, and nothing, not even time, illness, or tragedy, could take that away again. Weeks later, as she walked slowly through the garden, Ethan at her side, she turned to him. I remember. Everything. The roses, the rain, our home. You. He smiled through tears. And I'll be here every step, reminding you of it all, Lily. Always. Her eyes glistened with joy. And she reached for his hand. I'm so glad I found you again. Me too, he whispered. Me too. They walked slowly together, side by side, a life reclaimed from the jaws of fate. The impossible had happened, and love had triumphed over tragedy. The woman he had lost was truly back, and this time, he would never let her go. If this story shocked you, don't forget to like, comment your thoughts below, and subscribe for more heart-stopping stories like this. Share it with someone who loves mysteries and miracles.